Everybody, thanks for tuning in to Drinking at Moe's. This is Christian Rose here to talk a lot of crap and pile bodies to the sky.
This is Drinkin at Moe's, where we talk about the pros of pro wrestling in the Midwest while sipping on some brews with blessed beers and wrestling. That's my scene. Death matches and lucha libre, it's also mean. I'm a straight up smart goofball, not no kiss ass. I stand tall when it comes to wrestling. I'm the king. I know every move, every fling. Get ready for a wild time with Drinkin at Moe's, where we don't quit. Drinkin at Moe's, that's where it's at, like a power bomb. We hit hard, never flat. Fucking right, we're living the dream. Talking about wrestling, always a scream.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinking Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code Drinking at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. Oh, yeah, now. Hey, everybody, welcome Drinking Mo's. Big Mo here. You know the drill by now. YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good shit, because YouTube's algorithm continues to be a pain in the ass. We're most places to find audio podcasts, too. Today, I'm excited to have with me Christian Rose. How you doing?
Doing great, my good man. How about yourself?
Oh, I can't complain. I've recently, well, that's like a couple of weeks ago, recently made my commentary debut, so that was fun.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I even slipped in a poop joke in there. Oh yeah, they were making announcements for the second show, and the commentary partner, he was like, "Oh, looks like it's gonna be a solid number 2 show," and I just said, "Yeah, because nobody likes a running number 2."
That's it. That's actually true.
Oh yeah, those are the worst. But anyways, yeah, no, I can't complain. Other than the fact that I haven't really missed too many of the Iowa revolver stops. I'm gonna have to miss this next one.
Right. Yeah.
Family.
Those shows are killer, man. They always they look great.
Oh God, they're like a damn party the whole fucking time. I've been lucky enough to make a few friends over there, so. But first thing I'd like to ask everybody is, what got you started as a fan, and then what got you deciding to make the leap into the business?
So I do always appreciate this question because I love telling this story.
Okay.
Let me tell you a story. So I grew up kind of East Central Illinois. Some people call it Southern Illinois. That's not true, by the way. There are many different parts of this great state. But East Central Illinois, I grew up out in the sticks, 7 miles to the nearest town, and that town had a population of 1,300, which may have been gassed up. So I was a kid basically out on a farm, and I was at this point, I would have had a sibling, but I was a young kid, and we did not have cable, obviously, didn't have satellite dish, none of that fancy shit, no internet, whatever. We had 3 channels, 210-38, ABC, CBS, and occasionally it was Fox or it was NBC, depending on the station's affiliate. But one day I was playing in the living room, and my mom was on the couch on the phone talking to one of her friends, and she had turned on some syndicated professional wrestling show on one of these networks that we got. I'm talking, this is the console TV, ornate wood frame type of shit. And my mom was a what I would call a casual wrestling fan, in that she loved Randy Savage, she loved The Undertaker. She just had her favorites and whatnot. And I had, I'm a child, I'm in single digits. I had never seen wrestling, didn't know what it was, but I understood the idea that if you did something wrong, if you broke the rules, whether you were at home, another person's house, or school, or whatever, if you broke the rules, the authorities basically, they would come get you and you would be in trouble. And I understood even at that age that like if you do something bad out and about in the world, the police will come and they will take you to jail. I that thought had already been drilled into my young brain, right?
Oh yeah, I've been there.
And I look at the television and I see this guy and he's tangled up in these ropes. And I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what this thing is that he's standing in, but he's tangled up in these ropes and he can't move. And I see this other guy pull an enormous cobra out of a burlap bag.
Oh, that moment. Oh,
and,
man.
And I went, wait, what? Because I grew up out in the country. I know what snakes are. I'm not scared of them, but I know what that is. That's nuts, dude.
Oh, God.
And I watched that cobra bite Randy Savage in the arm, and like we've all seen it, but like it zooms in. I was a kid. I loved cartoons and stuff, whatever. I was single digits, but I knew that is a real snake biting that man on the arm. And my only thought was, oh my God, that guy's going to go to jail. Where are the police? Where are the cops? Why is nobody stopping this? And guess what? Nobody does. And it blew my mind. So my first cognitive thought of pro wrestling was, wow, you can do anything there and not get in trouble. So I start like, I'm like enwrapped. I'm like, this is the most important thing that has ever happened, right? And I start like, my mom's kind of paying attention show, but not really. She's on a landline phone with a 45-foot cord coming from the kitchen. And I'm like, start tugging on her jeans. And I'm like, Mom. And she's like, what? And I go, I want to do that. And I'm like pointing at the TV. And so she looks up. And at this point, I think they're hauling Savage off or something. But she sees Randy Savage. She goes, oh, you want to be like Randy Savage? Just like, oh, yeah, do the big elbow drop. And I said, no, I want to be the guy throwing snakes at people.
Oh, yeah.
So that was what got me hooked. That was what got me in.
Yeah.
I was a big fan for a couple of years until I was in grade school, probably second-ish grade, first somewhere in there. And one of my friends lightened me up to the fact that, oh shit, that ain't real. And I felt betrayed because I was like, no, that snake was real. And this was years later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he was like, no, dude, it's not real. And I felt so betrayed that I didn't watch through most of the 90s. I didn't get back in until the Attitude Era. My parents divorced. My dad remarried. So then I had a stepbrother that was the same age as me. And that was, wrestling was the most popular thing in the world.
Yeah.
And so he's watching. At that point, we had a satellite dish. And he was watching Raw one night. And I come into the kitchen, or not the kitchen, obviously, the living room. And I was like, man, I was still like bitter about, it's not real, And he goes, yeah, I know it's not real. I don't care. And I was like, wait, what? You can do? I didn't know that you could have that mindset. I thought that like if you were a wrestling fan, you had to think it was real. And he was like, dude, I don't care, man. The Rock's the coolest guy in the world. And I was like, oh shit, all right, cool. So I just sat down, and then after that, I never got out. I was in forever. It was that easy to undo the trauma that one kid in my class.
Oh yeah. Hell, I still have people like, oh, that's fake, right? And I'm like, yeah, I prefer the term predetermined, but it's entertaining as hell. I don't care. Growing up for me, yeah, it was pro wrestling and Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I was a big Ninja Turtles kid. I had a shit ton of those. I was a massive Jurassic Park kid.
Oh yeah,
like we had we had a house fire when I was in 5th grade. Lost everything, right?
Oh.
And obviously that's no good. Clearly, and people would ask me like, "Oh man, do you miss your house? This, that, and the other." And I'm like, that house itself kind of sucked, but I miss my Jurassic Park collection because I had the compound thing. The fence and the gate. I had the giant T-Rex with the little pieces of skin you could take out and see wounds on it. Because kids used to have toys that were cool. I literally had like every piece of Jurassic Park merchandise that was available, even the shit that wasn't in the first movie. And people were like, oh wow, it must suck that you lost your house. And I'm like, Yeah, really wish I had them dinosaurs back though.
Oh yeah, no, nothing like some of those toys back then. Like hell, today I even up top you might not be able to see them. I got the Universal Monster TNT mashups
Oh,
for
nice.
like I got Michelangelo as the mummy and shit, and
Yeah.
some of the good shit. I actually met the voice of Michelangelo from the original cartoon.
Oh, okay. That
I
cartoon
actually
was
got
massive.
a Funko Pop signed by him.
That's cool.
But now back to wrestling though. What
Yep.
was that all what got you deciding like this is what I'm doing? I'm getting into this.
Not quite. So like I got back into being a fan. I was watching and like I would read magazines and stuff. I remember like I one of my first like real jobs, I worked at a grocery store, and we weren't like destitute poor, but didn't have a whole lot of money. So like spending money on magazines was,
Mm.
that's frivolous, boy. So when I was working at the grocery store, I was like 15, 16. I would sneak away on a lot of my shift and just read like PWI and
Mm.
whatever wrestling magazine was there. Because I just wanted all of it. I was obsessed with it, and I didn't know how it worked. All that I knew that really existed was wrestling that was on TV. I did not really know that the independents were a thing. Like I would read results in magazines and be very confused because I was like,
Yeah.
well, what's ECWA? What's you know what I mean? Stuff like that. How is
Yeah.
this guy uh listed for a match there in that company, but he's also listed in a match for this company because I knew what was on TV.
Yeah.
And um it would have been around about 2005. A friend of mine that I was working with, we were working at an Arby's actually. I come in, and he was a big wrestling fan. Like we watch wrestling and stuff together. And I came into work one day and he goes, dude, I found out there's a pro wrestling school 30 minutes from here. I'm going to go up on Sunday. Do you want to go with? And I go, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
without question, yes. I was like, I think I'd seen one indie show that was outside of a bar in Charleston, Illinois, and I didn't know how it worked. I wish I'd been like more confident because I would have just approached him and been like, "Hey, what do I got to do? Who are you for that matter? Like, what is this?"
Mhm.
But I kind of just watched some of that show from like across the street. But no, that was it. He just happened to be like, "Yeah, I found this place. It's close by." We went up together, started training. That was how I got in. It was a really just sheer luck type of situation.
Yep. I leave the door open to down here where I record because I feel guilty leaving my dog upstairs by himself. He decided to join me tonight.
Oh, hello,
Got an
dog.
English bulldog.
Oh,
Yeah, I love him to death. He's a tank though, so when he comes down here, I got to make sure that like I keep an eye on where my camera and stuff that I am recording on is, so I don't have him trying to knock it over.
mm-hmm.
But next thing I was going to ask you about is how you came up with like how you are in the ring, your in ring persona, because I know that the first little bit it can be a bit of a feeling out process. You might go through a few characters and all that, but like once you find what you latch on to, how did that come about?
So for me, my one of my favorite things, maybe my favorite thing about wrestling is honestly it's the creative aspect.
Mm.
Um, I like to think of myself as a creative person, and wrestling is the best outlet for that creativity. I can't paint. I'm not a musician. You know what I mean? Like this is my art. This is my creative side. And when I was trying to come up with a character initially, I was kind of just a guy doing moves, and I was trying to figure stuff out in ring, but I was also trying to come up with a character. And I remember I watched a shoot interview because people used to buy DVDs and watch shoot interviews to learn about wrestling with Christopher Daniels because I was a big fan of his stuff. And he said that when he came up with the Fallen Angel character, he got a level of inspiration from Goldust because Dustin Rhodes had said in some interview with the Goldust character, especially back in the 90s when they initially debuted it, very different time period, very different culture.
Yeah.
Um, and his one of his things was sexuality is something that everyone has an opinion on. No matter what your opinion is, you've got one. So Chris Daniels took that and said religion is something that no matter what you have an opinion on. So that's how he started doing building the framework for the fallen angel character.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, okay, what is something, and this is around about 2010-ish, because I'm old. But I was like, what's something that is universal? And what I came across was admitting that you're wrong. Nobody likes doing that. Admitting that you're wrong to someone who is an asshole is the worst. So that was kind of where I started coming up with the bitter lunatic character, because I wanted to be like the guy who is telling the truth and being honest, and you, the audience, it, but man, you just can't stand it. You just can't admit it,
Oh, yeah.
And that was like the first version of like what Christian Rose is that took off. And then like there's been many different variations and versions of me since then. Some that are very close to reality, some that are, not quite. But I can remember I cut a promo one time during that bitter lunatic time period, where that was the character, where it was like a Thanksgiving-ish, or maybe it was like a late November, early December show. And I'm cutting this promo in the ring on the mic at people. And they were doing a fundraiser of some sort at this event too. But keep in mind what I'm going for with the character. And I start trolling people for donating to charity, because I'm like, you think that because you walk out of a Best Buy with a $1,200 TV in your cart and you put 60 cents in your pocket into a bucket, that you're helping people. Are there no starving families in June? Are there no needy children in May? Where are you then? You don't really care. You're just doing this because you want to feel good and justify your own greed. Now, I feel my character and me are completely correct when we say that. And I know that there was somebody in that crowd that was like, oh, dude, I fucking put money in the Salvation Army bucket. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it makes them, they know that I'm right.
Yeah.
And they're so mad about it, that was an initial version of me. And then like I've done various different ones. The Dark Tower series by Stephen King is a massive influence on me. That's actually where I got the last name Rose. So I've always kind of weaved that into my promos and like my gear and things that I do and whatnot. Yeah, that was how I got started.
All right. That I love hearing little bits like that, like the story about, you first watching wrestling and, how you come up with that stuff, because everybody has their own tale about it. So it's always interesting getting the little backstories. Like, I remember first watching wrestling, and some of the people that like first caught my eye was like, there was the Hogans and the Warriors and the Legion of Doom that were like, you see them come out and the crowds would just go nuts. And then one guy that growing up scared the shit out of me, but now, unfortunately, never will get to meet him. But now, seeing old videos, love him. But Bruiser Brody,
oh, it's awesome,
dude. So I just loved seeing. Now, I love seeing the way the crowds would just be like, "Oh my god," trying to run away from him. And when I was a little kid, he scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. But yeah, no, I love hearing how everything comes together. And funny thing, when I was putting my notes together, I'm like thinking back, because you and I have actually met a handful of times.
I thought so, but my memory is mush.
Yeah. First time, the promotion doesn't run anymore, but the first time was actually up in Fargo, North Dakota for Fully Loaded Wrestling, when they had their
that was so much fun, man. Fully Loaded
tag team turmoil show.
What was it? I'm sorry.
Their tag team turmoil show.
Okay.
Where the first night was in Fargo. The second night was in like Detroit Lakes, Minnesota or something.
Okay.
And
I kind of remember that. Yeah.
That was, I think, what was Eric Cannon and the now Ruby Soho went up against
Uh-huh.
the Viking something.
Yep. Viking
Warhorse
Warpark.
was one,
Yep. The little
and
Viking.
that, oh god, that was something else. And I actually got to be special guest ring announcer for uh Duke and Sean's match that night.
Yep.
They were going up against, oh god, they're like biker dudes, and I just remember I just remembered I got told, okay, your thing is coming up, and then I'm behind the curtain and I'm just pacing back and forth like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Like, you always think, oh, this would be so cool if this happened, but then right before it's actually going to happen, you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a fun night. Oh god, I somehow remember some of the after party,
I'm
which
glad somebody does because I sure as shit don't.
oh god, the last thing I remembered was half plastered walking up just to see, okay, what song is this that they're singing on the karaoke machine, and then somebody shoves the microphone in my face, and then I'm like drunkenly singing She Fucking Hates Me.
Hot new rock group, Puddle of Mud.
Yeah, and that was a fun time. And then actually it's been a handful of times down here in Omaha, but for Magnum, the last time was actually in a match against good friend Bo Gott.
Love Bo.
And I love him to death. But I love when I go to watch him, because more often, if he knows I'm going to be there, he'll figure out a little way to somehow get me involved if he knows where I'm sitting. And I was sitting front row, and he throws you on top of me and tells me to hold your arms back.
You. This is a betrayal.
Man, it was a fun time. I've always loved getting to watch you. And
was that in the hotel ballroom?
This one was actually at the Stocks and Bonds.
Oh, okay. Stocks and Bonds. Yeah.
But I have been to multiple shows there. I actually did a pro wrestling boot camp with Strife over there, and it was shortly after I got back from the Navy.
Yeah.
And it was funny for me because, one, I'm having a laugh on thinking, because that was the hotel I was put in the night before I left for boot camp.
Oh, shit.
So it was funny for me thinking, man, I left here going to one, and now I'm coming back here for another. And then, I've been to a handful of other shows there, and that venue ended up getting torn down, like, not too long ago. Man, it was kind of weird going by there afterwards, because I'm like, man, that's a little part of my Navy memory that's not there anymore. But yeah, you have had a handful of great matches with Magnum, from Bogat to facing off with, oh god, there's a Piggy in the Bank match that I remember.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was fun.
They're Piggy in the Bank matches. There have been some intense ones. Like, I remember seeing a ladder bridge between the guardrail and the ring apron, and then my friend Donnie Pepper Cricketer Brandon Juarez having a guy on his back, and then I see him jump, and ladder just folds.
If anybody listening wants to go back and watch the Piggy in the Bank match I was in, Donnie Pepper Cricket has a one of my favorite spots that I've gotten to do in a ladder match. I'm in the ring or whatever, we're doing stuff, and he has a ladder and he goes to slide it in the ring, but the way that he's doing it, his hands are in the middle, and I just stomp on the ladder and scissor his hands.
Oh,
I
I think I'm gonna.
love doing stuff like that in matches. I like shit that is just visceral, just that violence that the audience can actually connect with, because it's like they're not going to know what it's like to get body slammed, presumably, right, or whipped into a turnbuckle. But every person in that building is like, oh fuck, I know what it's like to get my hand caught in something.
So yeah, that or oh god, whenever I see wrestlers with those hoop things in their earlobes, I've always thought, man, you get in a hardcore match, you can just have somebody take a screwdriver and just wrench it.
Remember when Orton did that to Jeff Hardy?
That's what I was thinking of when I was talking about this. I remember seeing that. I'm like, somebody finally did it. Man, but yeah, I'll admit, I think of some crazy shit like that myself. I mean, my friend that ran the Fight Against Suicide wrestling show, I actually told him when he was trying to come up with a card for the second show, I'm like, give me a list of who's going to be there.
Yeah.
And I will come up with something in 20 minutes. It didn't even take that long.
Right on. Hell
but
yeah.
I'm just like, I constantly am thinking about all that stuff. I guess even more of a good reason why I have the podcast, because it gives me some of an outlet to get it all out. But another place that I have seen you at, well, maybe not live, but I've seen matches of yours there, was Dreamwave.
Oh, yeah.
A place that is very much been like a destination spot. What has it been like for you there? Because I know there's been something that came up. God, I don't think it's been all that long ago now, but I've actually had I guess now former partner of yours on the show, and there's been a little bit of a split there.
Right. So I guess the thing about, like I said, it's not possible to have an interview with Christian Rose without talking about Dreamwave, which is fine. It's great. I love it. I think it's my work. I very much appreciate you calling Dreamwave a destination promotion, because that is the goal, is to make it a place that people want to be, that people work to be at, that people fight to be at. There was a time a long time ago where we did tryout matches at Dreamwave, which is unheard of really on the independents.
Yeah.
Like even back then. By the way, I'm trying to get the boss to bring that back. I want more tryouts. So for me, the Dreamwave experience is just another example of just sheer dumb luck. So I was friends with WWE referee Jason Ayers, who back then was Jason Harding, on the independents. We met, we got along, we were on a lot of shows together, stuff. I thought he was very smart. He thought I was smart, whatever. So he was initially refereeing for Dreamwave when they first opened. And they had been in operation for I want to say it was a year and change, And I had heard about them, and I heard about all these things, and I had heard that they wanted characters. And at the time, I was a guy doing moves, I was kind of trying out the bit of, I just didn't have, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just, hey, Christian Rose, he's a villain, he wrestles, whatever. And so, man, I came up with so many different characters, because I knew I wanted to be there. I knew that was the place that I needed to be. And I had so many dumb ideas for gimmicks and characters. Like, one of them I was going to do was going to be, the idea would be that my character was an adrenaline junkie. And I was going to film stuff about how, I've been skydiving, I've been bungee jumping, and just make up all these extreme things that I'd done. And then it'd be but nothing gives me a better rush than pro wrestling. Now, how that would have translated into the ring, I don't know. I didn't figure it out. Thank God I didn't put any more effort into it. But so Jason knew that they were looking for a guy that could talk, and he had seen me cut promos. And so he was like, hey, Jay Repsol, owner and booker, whatever, of Dreamwave, here's a guy you should hit up. He can talk. Here's a promo of his. And he just showed him one of my promos on YouTube that was, you know, just it was a promo. So I wake up one day, at the time I had a night job. I wake up evening and I have a message on my phone from a number I didn't have saved in it, and it just says, "Hi, I'm Jay Repsol. I run Dreamwave Wrestling. Would you like to wrestle for us?"
No.
Sir, yes, sir. Absolutely, whatever you need. Okay, cool. And so I was friends with a guy by the name of Ryan Phoenix who went to Dreamwave and was Waylon Beck. They gave him a new character, a new look, and everything. And I said, "Yes, sir, absolutely, sir, whatever you need." Then I immediately was like, "Oh man, I know they changed people up. What if I get something that sucks, or what if I can't do it? Like what if it's the worst idea ever or something? Or maybe it's just me and I'm not ready for this. Fuck, I shouldn't have agreed to anything, right?" um, but he was like, "Okay, cool." He gave me a date, and I was like, "Okay, sounds good. I will be there." And he goes, "So I have this idea for you." And keep in mind, at this point, I'd never met this gentleman. He got my number from Ayers or whatever, and I was like, "Oh man, here we go, right?" And I go, "Okay, what you got?" And he says, "I want you to be emo but badass, kind of like Raven but without the flock." And I was like, "Oh, thank Christ." I was like, "This is basically what I'm already doing." He's like, "I want you to be sinister and well spoken, but you beat the shit out of people." And it's like, oh my God, like pretty much everything I was already doing. It's like, oh my God. So that was how I got in. Again, it was just by dumb luck and by knowing the right people and being able to talk. I went on like a near 3-year undefeated streak there after I came in, which was also a complete accident. None of that was supposed to happen. Yeah, and then now that Dreamwave is back and we're doing like great business, I'm coming off that very very great run as champ, which again, that's another thing that was not supposed to happen. That was not the original plan. Um, it's been great. Like I tell people all the time that like any you know quote unquote name value that a guy can have on the independents, but I'm like the whatever name value I have, I owe decidedly to Dreamwave. I'm always going to be fiercely loyal to the place because it has absolutely benefited it, like my wrestling career and my life for that matter. Um, yeah, and I'm so happy that everything right now is just, you know what I mean. It's like we're selling out shows months in advance. Just big business, a lot of good opportunities for new guys and stuff, and just stuff that you don't think is going to happen. Like dude, I wrestled AJ Styles. You know what I mean? Like I'm forever grateful and loyal to the place because it absolutely made me. And it was like if I'm downplaying my own involvement or skills, I am. Because a lot of it was just pure luck, pure coincidence, pure happenstance. Um, but there have been people that were in good, fortunate, lucky situations that didn't get even the quote unquote success that I've gotten out of it. But yeah, it's been an unbelievable ride, and I'm so glad they're still going.
That is awesome. And yeah, I like to, follow up on them every now and then, and knowing guys like you and a few others, the footage pops up on my page every now and then, so I love watching all of that. And like you said, you've held multiple titles there. You've held multiple titles over at Zowa Live.
Zowa.
Zowa. Like, I hate when I butcher up names, like when I mispronounce shit. Like I always feel awkward. But you've held multiple titles there.
When you see it online, you're like, "Oh yeah, Zowa," but we all call it Zowa.
Yeah. What's your experience been like there?
Some pretty great, honestly. So I met my friend Zeke Zishi, as some people may know from Zowa and Dreamwave and whatnot. I met him through wrestling, just at independents around the area and stuff. And basically, there used to be a promotion in this area called Funky Monkey Wrestling. It was very family friendly, very throwback style, great stuff. Like they big houses and everything. It was Funky Monkey was genuinely very fun, and that's kind of I think that's where I initially met Zishi. And basically, the owner of Funky Monkey decided he was closing up shop. He had other stuff going on in his life, and Dreamwave was still operating at that time, but wasn't long for the world because Dreamwave stopped in about I think it was 2016.
I was
So
going to say, yeah, it stopped for a little bit there.
yeah, for a couple of years. So very similar thing. Just the owner, Jay had other shit going on in his life. It was like, this is a lot of work, it's a lot of effort. Need a break, can't do it. Totally fine. Nothing, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So there was kind of a void in the northern Illinois area, which is where at that point I was living, still am. And so Zishi came up to me and was like, "Hey, I want to start a wrestling school because there was a lot of people that wanted to wrestle and didn't have anywhere to go." And he was like, "I want to buy this ring from so and so. I have his family owns a dance studio actually, and he's like, I want to buy this ring. Could put it up in my family's dance studio. You go halves on the ring with me, and we will start taking students. And you be the head trainer." And I said, "All right, cool. Let's do it. Let's go for it." I didn't have a lot of experience training people at that point, but I was like, okay, fine, because I was like, otherwise they're gonna go do dumb shit in the backyard. Somebody's gonna get hurt, and none of that's ever good for wrestling. It's not good for business. It's not good for the area. So I was like, absolutely, let's do it. So went halves with him on a little 14 by 14 pony boy ring because it could fit in the dance studio, and had our first group of trainees. And after a few months, decided, okay, we're gonna do a show. So at that point, basically, Zishi took over as like he's the booker, he's the promoter, he's the guy. I'm just there to train guys and have matches. That's been my business relationship with the place ever since. Zishi is still one of my dearest friends. I talk to him like daily. And we've had a lot of different classes come through there. Um, and yeah, my thing that I love about Zowa, and we have kind of a sister promotion called Homegrown Wrestling as well, is that's what it is. It's homegrown wrestling, and it's pretty much largely local guys. It's very much young guys that are new and they just need ring time. They just need experience, but they can be in the match with somebody who's been around for a long time, like a Bucky Collins, for example, and they can learn something and get better, and then go out on the road and be more prepared for things outside of the area. And I love that Zowa is just grassroots, very. I don't when I say basic, I want to say traditional pro wrestling. Like they ran over, I think it was 15 or 16 shows this summer at like festivals and fairs and campgrounds and stuff. And like that's kind of where you really learn how to like react to an audience and how to have a wrestling match that's not a wrestling match, because those guys aren't wrestling fans. Like you're wrestling at the hot dog festival. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get a lot of guys in Bullet Club shirts at the hot dog festival. They don't know what this is that they're looking at. And I think that's really important for guys to just become comfortable in front of a crowd and to get that experience. And so like I'm a two-time champion for Zowa. I'm a former tag champ for Zowa, and I've had like a lot of matches there that I really, really hold in high regard. And I mean, this is a place that like I think their biggest crowd ever was probably 250, and I don't mean to sound dismissive for that, because for what it is and the business model, like that's massive.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that wrestling like that exists, especially in this area.
Oh, totally. And I have some connection to some stuff out in Illinois. They were Warrior Wrestling, but I guess they're now going with Pro Wrestling Ventures. I've had Steve, the promoter owner, on many times. Did preview shows for shows, and actually even got to go down when they had St. Louis stop.
Okay.
And I got to see, you know, I got to see it was Jeff Cobb versus Jonah, aka Bronson Reed.
Yep.
And I actually got to do a mini episode with Bronson Reed,
That's
like
awesome.
right before. Like he literally told me, okay, I got this amount of time from like right after the Fan Fest ended to right when he had to go put on his gear. I'm like, you got that. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And still one of those like, holy crap. If you would have told like the guy I was growing up in like high school and shit that someday I'd be doing a podcast with a guy that's been in the freaking Tokyo Dome and shit,
Right.
I would have thought you were full of shit.
But that's like, it's one of the best things about wrestling, especially on the independents. Like I say this a lot, where it's like, if you grew up as a baseball fan in the 90s, the odds of you sharing the field with a Mark McGuire or Sammy Sosa are really, really fucking slim. If you were a basketball fan in the 90s, dog, I'm sorry, you're not going to get to play with Jordan and Pippen. It's just not going to happen. But if you're a wrestling fan, and I use the 90s for my own personal frame of reference, but if you're a wrestling fan at any time period, and then you get trained and you get in, the odds of you sharing a locker room with the guys you grew up ain't that low. The odds of you sharing a ring with the guys that you grew up watching isn't that, it's not that out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, true.
And I'm lucky enough to have experienced it numerous times myself, and there's a lot of guys that will tell you the same thing.
Oh yeah, I've been very lucky to be able to do episodes with some of my absolute favorites from like, oh god, Ring of Honor's been one that's been very good to me, all the pre Tony Khan.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like, I got nothing against Tony Khan. I'm an AEW fan. I love the product, but his media people are a pain in the ass to get a hold of.
Yeah.
But I've had former 6-man tag champ Dutch on.
Yep.
That was something fun. Like, it actually got me recognition from Bray Wyatt.
That's cool.
Like, he actually liked the post, and I'm like, I literally got the alert in traffic, and I'm like, about drop my phone, and I'm literally, as soon as I get in my driveway, I'm literally messaging Dutch like, "You're friends with Bray Wyatt?" Question mark. And then when he answered, I'm like, that explains so much right now. And then I've actually got to have Kerry Silken on. This was like like he said that he'd do it before Tony Khan bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, just don't advertise it beforehand because of, whatever. And I'm like, if that's what it's going to take to have you on, fine, we'll do it.
I got to chill with not Tony Khan, with Kerry Silken. Once upon a time, me and my friends we used to go to all the Ring of Honor shows in Chicago. We would drive 4 hours up, do the thing, come back, right? And we were there very early, and we got to help set up. And
nice.
So up the ring and the chairs and stuff. And I don't remember who, but somebody comes around the corner and goes, "Hey, can anybody go pick up Kerry from his hotel?" And me and dude that I came up with are like, "Right here." So they give us an address and whatnot. And so we drive across the city to this hotel, and we get to pick up Kerry Silken. And we drive all the way back across the city, and we're just picking his brain. You know what I mean? Just like, hey, what about this?
Yeah.
In shop. And he was just totally open, smoking a cigar and hanging out, talking, whatever, blah, blah. We get back to the venue, and he goes, because we had said something about like, yeah, we came up with our friends and this car and stuff. He's like, "Oh yeah, great." And we get back to the Frontier Ridge Fieldhouse, and he's like, "Well, who did you come up here with?" So we like call over the three guys came up with us. And we're like, "Yeah, it was us." And he goes, "Okay, you guys, did you buy tickets yet?" We're like, "No, we were just gonna get GA." And he goes, "Don't worry about that. And go get yourselves like a shirt or a hoodie." So we all got Ring of Honor hoodies for free from Kerry Silkin for helping set up and driving him across town. And we got to get in free at that show. And then every time that I saw him afterwards, because like I said, we went to all the Ring of Honor shows in the Midwest, he was always like, "Oh yeah, I remember." And I was like, if I had been like
Yeah.
working at that point, I'd been like, "Pre-show,
Yeah.
Man."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I remember going back to Revolver, I took a friend of mine there, and at this time I had, got to become friends with a few of the people there, and I was telling him about all this, and then we get on the way home after, everybody, the ones that I knew had come up to me and recognized me and shit, and he was like, you never know when somebody's telling you about that stuff, like, is it like completely true? And then it was like, holy shit. Yeah, you weren't bullshitting me there. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't. But Ring of Honor, I've also got I got the chance, my commentary debut, one of the guys in the main event was Cheeseburger.
Good dude.
Oh, good dude. Yeah. I'm actually working on getting him on the podcast, so that's going to be fun. And Matt, there's two promotions that have been very good to me, and that has been Matt Tremont's promotion, H2O in New Jersey, and the one that Athena and Matthew Palmer help out with, MPX down in Texas. Like I've lost count of how many people from those two that I've had on. Like especially H2O, I'm like, there's a couple people I can think of, but outside of that, it's like I pretty much had most of them on.
Nice.
So yeah, I've been very lucky. And now I got two categories here. One's a bit of a name game where I name off some people and you give me quick thoughts on them. And I try to theme it to the guests as much as possible. And at the very least, try to, people that you've shared a ring with in one way or another, or shared a locker room with at least. So each of these four people, when going through match histories and stuff, I found that I think most people would know at least most of these guys.
Okay.
First one recently showed up on NXT, Hammerstone.
He's a man. He's just the coolest. He's just the best. He's a guy that like you look at him and you're like, brother, you shouldn't be on this show. You should be on TV. Like he's like the best way I can describe him and like what I absolutely love about the dude, because I truly genuinely I love the guy. I respect the absolute hell out of him. And I think it was the first time that we ever wrestled was for Journey Pro. And I was having a good run out in the Midwest, and I remember he had put out a post that said, "I will wrestle for half my rate if somebody books me versus Chris Rose." I was like, that's a really nice one. That's a hell of a thing to say. And two, that's very complimentary. I don't think they got him for half rate, but it was nice of him to say it, right?
Yeah.
But I remember we would go to put stuff together, and I said, "Can I pick you up?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I go, like, "Can I pick you up?" And he's like, "I mean, like, I'm like 250 right now." And I go, "No, man. Am I allowed during the course of this match to pick you up?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, if you can." And I go, "Yeah, I can." And he's like, "Well, then what's the question?" I'm like, "Brother, if I looked like you." But I mean, like, that's a testament to him. Like, he's great. He works. I don't know that a person can work harder.
Yeah.
You know I mean, like in every aspect, his diet, his training, his lifting, and that guy also, he can go in ring.
Yeah.
And people, I honestly, I think that people sleep on that. I really do. I think that they look at him and they think, okay, he looks like a fucking action figure. That's great. Blah, blah, blah. He's strong and all this other shit. That guy can absolutely go in ring and not get gas. And it's, yeah, that's it. I think that's all I got there.
Oh yeah, no, but like when I saw the footage of him popping up on NXT, I'm like, he's right. Like, I mean, he's
Long overdue. Long
getting,
overdue.
he, oh, totally. He's getting, TNA, like, I strongly think TNA is one of the most underrated national TV products right now.
Oh yeah.
He's getting some, exposure there, but like
Yep.
WWE is like, they're like, there's a reason they're the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And, getting to see him there, that's just awesome. Like, I was so happy for him there. Now, that, you know what? Next guy we're going back, I think, 2016 here. But this guy, hell, I think there's no other way about it. The current NXT champion, Ethan Page.
Oh yeah. I have been on several shows with Ethan Page. I believe I actually randomly tagged with him one time at a freelance show.
I think this was where I came up with him was that
Yes.
match.
Very cool guy. Really cool, really chill, just very laid back in the back. Um, somebody that like I think that like where he is now is where he's always wanted to be, basically. Because the way that he carries himself and whatnot was always very much like you just knew that guy was made for television, you
Yeah.
know. Really cool dude, really cool guy.
Oh yeah. I've always wanted to end up meeting him at some point because I I've actually told Matt Cardona this that him and Ethan Page were two of the guys that got me back into figure collecting, like the stuff I got behind me here. So
Mm-hmm.
getting to share that with him would be pretty cool for me. Now, next two, we're going back a little further, 2014, and I guess I guess I had forgotten how long this first person had been in the business. I knew it had been a little bit, but Jordan Grace.
Jordan, she was on a bunch of shows with me around that time period in the Midwest because she kind of like my memory of her at that point was she kind of just came out of nowhere and was everywhere instantly. Um, no, she was always cool. I always thought she was nice. I always thought, especially at that point, I thought she was working way harder than she ever really needed to. I can remember being at a Beyond Wrestling sleeper cell taping, which was like a no crowd thing in Chicago. And so the guys are basically the audience. Well, we don't know what anyone's going to do in their match, obviously. So we are kind of reacting genuinely, but also, through the lens of being wrestlers. And I remember she had this match with Matt Nix,
Mm.
and he did this thing, and I cannot stress this enough, guys. That this is in a warehouse in Chicago with no paid audience. Okay, this is just we are having these matches to try to be seen. We are trying to be noticed, and in that aspect, this absolutely paid off for her. But she goes for a tornado DDT while Matt Nix is on the floor, like a suicide dive into a tornado DDT, and Matt blocks it, and from the floor gave her a Northern Lights suplex into the apron,
Mm.
and then they just fall and collapse on the floor, and the noise that it made. And I can remember standing up against the wall, watching that, losing my mind. And I don't even know what emotional state I would have been in for this, but I just remember like walking up to them. The match is still going on, by the way, and everyone's losing their mind. They're beating on the apron, they're clapping, whatever. And I remember walking up and just bending down, just screaming, "There's no money here! There's no money here!" Because I was like, I can't believe you just did that to yourselves. Like, holy shit, what the fuck's wrong with me? uh, but yeah, no, I would have been on shows with her in like Mid South, beyond or not beyond, but like probably freelance and stuff. I don't recall. Maybe not. I don't know. But no, always really chill and just even back then, man, working way and it's clearly paid off in dividends like massively for her. So props, you know what I mean? Like, hell
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
man, good on you, dude. But like at the same time, I just remember there being points where I was like, even back then, and I was still like young and full of piss and vinegar at that point too. But I was just like, fucking grab a lower gear.
Like I remember when she popped up at the Royal Rumble, and I was like
Yeah.
thinking before she actually came out there that I was like, who the hell has sirens in their entrance? Not thinking that
Uh-huh.
that was even a possibility. And then I see her walk out there with the Knockouts title. I'm like, oh, damn.
Really cool.
Oh, yeah. I was extremely happy there. Now, this last person, I have gotten to meet a handful of times. And actually, they actually made a short little cameo in my yet to be released episode with Eric Dillinger, B Boy.
B boy, hell yeah, dude. So B boy, I met initially at IWA Mid South. Um, we had a couple of matches there. He was at Dreamwave a handful of times. If he ever does listen to this, hey, remember that time that I beat your ass at darts, B boy? Huh? Remember that, Benny? When we
I'll
played?
tag him in this.
Remember that, Benny? When we played cricket and I absolutely whipped your ass. So that's true, by the way. That's a fact, brother. So my favorite memories with him. Give me just a second here. I got to plug a thing in.
Yeah.
My favorite memories. Yeah, struggling. I know. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Hit.
I've had people driving in their cars.
Okay. So my favorite memories from B Boy. The first time that I had a match with him, it was for IW Mid South in the Colgate arena, not sponsored by the toothpaste. And we did a thing in it that it was my idea. I remember I pitched it, and at first he was kind of hesitant, but he's like, "Oh, okay, cool, whatever." And it's a weird thing. I don't even know if I want to reveal it, but maybe not we, but I had people ask me genuinely for the next 6 to 8 years. Was that real? Wait, did that actually happen or not? And I take such pride in that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really do. So actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just tell it now. So what we did was, because at this point, and even more so now, I'm really big on match structure and psychology. And I had seen a match that ended on a quote knockout, like a work shoot knockout. Like, oh man, that guy's completely out. We can't continue the match. I was like, yeah, I've seen it done as the finish. I've never seen that happen like otherwise. And if it does happen for real, if somebody does unfortunately get tagged or they make too much contact and they get knocked out, then that match is take it home, dog. We're done. And I was like, I kind of want to fuck with that a little bit. So when we put the match together, I said I wanted to do this, but I want to do it in like the middle. And he was like, what? So I was like, just trust me. I think this will work. So we're doing the match, and I always call it a follow spot, but basically this guy takes off, this guy follows him, smash on the ropes, repeat, whatever. Well, at one point he follows me, gives me a forearm on the ropes, and he takes off, and I just fall down. And he hits the ropes, and he turns around like he's kind of like bracing for impact, I guess. You know what I mean? Like where he's like, oh, wait. And I'm not there. I'm just laying on the ground. And he's kind of like, oh, wait, what? All right. And he goes to get me, and the ref stops him, and he's checking on me, and it's in the middle of the match. Like when you're watching a wrestling match as a fan, you know tonally where you are beat by beat, right? And we had some people come out from the back to check on me and stuff, and he's kind of like, like even doing the like, guys, I'm sorry, you paid money to see me and this, whatever. And they go to carry me to the back, and right when we get to about the door, I'm like, nope, I'm good. and I stumble back and I do the rest of the match. But I did the rest of the match as though I'd been severely concussed.
Yeah.
And was just on autopilot. So like I changed my body language, I changed the way I did my offense, changed the way I did my defense and everything. And I'm so proud that we were able to do that. And now I've completely ruined it. But I'm so proud that we were able to do that to such an effective degree that I like it was a long time before I was wrestling again in that area after that run with Mid-South. But the next time that I was there, and this was years later, and I had people on the show that I was on at that point, both like on both sides of the curtain, so to speak, asking me on one show that I had like 3 people ask me, they're like, I remember that match with B-Boy. Did you really get knocked out? And like, I was, you know what I mean? I was like, we did it. You know what I mean? Like it took years, literal years to get the payoff, but you know, they fought.
Oh yeah. Like I've done stuff, I'd like to consider myself the person. I love to prank people, but I seem to have that ability that people don't suspect that I'm the one that will do it. Like my most famous one that I always love talking about in the Navy. Every uniform has a hat or cover, and when I was in A school, we had the adjustable ball cap, and I remembered we were in a break from the class, and nobody was paying attention. They were all in their own conversations. So, and the chair I was in was one of those rolly ones. So I just rolled around and was switching everybody's hat sizes to where it was like obviously not theirs. Too big, too small, whatever. We go to leave for the day. Everybody's putting their covers on, and they're all like, "What the fuck?" And I just like, and you know what? Unless somebody from them ends up watching, which I know a few of my Navy friends do, to this day, nobody, as far as I'm aware, knows it was me that did it. And that was back in 2009.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm definitely that type. Hell, at wrestling shows, I'm that type. I am the guy that likes to sit in the crowd and tries to make somebody crack.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestler, referee, ring, whoever. And I've been lucky enough to get some, well, I'd like to call them pretty big ones. I got Mike Bennett one time.
Oh yeah, Mike's awesome. He's a great dude.
Oh, he was here in Omaha, and all of a sudden at one part, there was the crowd had just gotten done cheering, and I just yelled out, Adam! And you could see him looking down, trying to hide it.
Yeah.
But then I talked to him after the show. I was like, yeah, I was the one that did that. And he's like, you popped the hell out of me. I'm like, yes. And actually at a collision taping, I actually got Luther. That was something because it was the same week that Toni Storm had made a comment about Mariah May slapping the tits off her opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And Toni Storm had a match at Collision. And at one point, same thing. I just yelled out, slap her tits off. And Luther just goes, like, looking back in my direction. I'm like, yes. But all right, on to the next thing here. My random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be, some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about. That's why they're random. But the first one's the one I always lead off with because I love the stories I get out of it. Craziest in-match moment for you?
Man, it would be tough for me to narrow it down.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And you know what? I will just pick one. So you're talking like in matches, in like we're live, pal. Like shit's happening, whatever. Okay. Oh shoot! I'm sorry. I'm not trying to vamp. I'm not trying to stall. I'm trying to honestly select which one of these I'm gonna.
No, I can get it. I get it.
So, okay, once upon a time, this was at Dreamwave. I was in a Survivor Series style match. It was 4-on-4, and it was Team Overkill. Me and my two best friends, Alex Castle and Matt Cage, our partner Justin McIntyre the third, against a team of other four guys. And we put this match. And here's the thing: this match had it's 4-on-4. There's so much going on here though, because I think it was Castle's quote official debut on the roster. I think. Cage was getting started. He had like one match there, so they're like, "Well, Cage has to look strong." I said, "Okay, cool." And Rose, well, you can't lose. I said, like, yeah, all right, cool. And we're setting up this thing in 2 months. Okay, yeah, cool. But we're setting up this thing with McIntyre and Whalen for next month. I go, okay, yeah. Like the machine had so many moving parts to it. So somehow this match with 4 versus 4 was put together, but not entirely collaboratively. And so when we went to iron it out, it was just like these guys come in and do their stuff. You guys talk about that amongst yourselves. Then it's these guys, and you know what I mean. Like there was a lot of like, talk about I don't need to know, you don't need to know, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
So Cage gets eliminated from the match, and something happens where I'm on the apron, I think maybe, and somebody bops me, and I fall to the floor. Well, when I fall to the floor, oh my God, there's Matt Cage. I was like, oh shit. So like in midair, I tried to correct or whatever. I was like, fuck. And so I kind of just eat hell into the floor next to him. And I know where I am in the match and everything else is going on. I'm like, I have like 12 seconds, maybe 15 before I need to be able to see what's going on because I'm about to do a thing in a minute, whatever. But I eat hell onto this floor and I crawl over to Cage because I thought, oh God, he got eliminated. What is he still at? Maybe he's hurt. Shit. So like I army crawl over to him. I just go, Cage, dude. And he's like, yeah. And it's like, you got eliminated. What are you doing out here? And he goes, I have a run in. And I said, oh my God, I had no idea. And just got up and walked away. So it's like, I don't know if that translates well, but just the idea that like the match was so like chock full of shit that I didn't even know that he was still involved. Yeah. It's just like, he got pinned. He's out. Get him out of here. Okay, actually, now that I said that, I do have one though that is better, and it does actually supersede that story. This is a better one, but I've had a lot of these, but this one's a keeper. So one time it was a Dreamwave show, but it was in Mendota, Illinois, and it was at their fairgrounds. It was a summer show, a festival type of thing, and I'm having a match with Rhino.
Oh.
So I have two. Now here's the thing, and I'm kind of circumventing your question because this was the best in ring, right?
Yeah.
One of these is not in ring, and the other one's not in ring, but bear with me.
Yeah.
So Boss Man is like, and this is during undefeated streak for me, and I'm having this match with Ryan. And show up early, we're hanging out, and we start having a few libations. And Boss Man says, I think it'd be really cool if you kicked out of the gore. And I go, what? And he's like, yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I think the crowd would believe you're going to lose, whatever. And I go, oh, well, I'm not going to say that. What is this isn't a thing for me. Like, it's not, whatever. And he goes, okay.
Yeah.
But, it'd be really cool if you did. I'm like, okay. So Rhino arrives, and we're changing in trailers. We actually had like little campers or RV style things set up, for locker rooms. The fair show, it's at on a track. So Rhino shows up. I say hi. I meet him. We're in the camper. We're hanging out. We're chilling. We're talking. And I'm like, I'm not going to suggest this. But Boss Man Jay is in the room with us. And so Rhino's putting his gear on and he's taping his wrist. And like, he is the nicest guy in the world. He is the nicest guy of all time, but he is still intimidating as fuck, especially if you don't know him. And I didn't at this time. So, Rhino's like taping his wrists up. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to get this out, but I'm going to absolutely not take any credit for it. So and we're all in the room together hanging out in this camper. And I go, hey, Rhino. So, Jay, boss man promoter over here, had this really cool idea. And Rhino's taping his wrist up, and he goes, "What's that?" And he goes, "He thinks I should kick out of the gore." And so Jay just kind of goes, "Oh no!" Like wide face, and Rhino just stops taping his wrist, and he's like, "You want him to kick out of my finish?" And Jay's like, "Well, I mean, it was just an idea, man. He's undefeated, all this." And he's like, "Nobody kicks out of my finish." And Jay's like, "Well, I'm sorry, man. It's just an idea, whatever." And then he just goes, "I'm just kidding, man. Kick out of it all you want." I laughed for 1,000 days about that. It was so good. But here's where we get to the actual craziness. So the ring is set up on the dirt track outside of on the grand or in front of the grandstands. So they have the oval horse racing track going around the outside, but in the middle they actually had it set up to do motocross. Really cool visual. So if you're in the grandstands, there's the ring on the flat track, but then directly behind that, in the center of the track, is this massive tabletop jump for the motocross racing. So the weather gets bad, and it's been stormy, it's been rainy. We delay the show, we pause the show because of the rain, all this other stuff. And Rhino says, "Hey man, we may just end up fighting, because if the ring is wet, it's very dangerous." I go, "Yeah, sure, I got it." We go out, the ring is soaked, and I get the cue, get out of the ring. So I'm like, okay. So me and Rhino are fighting all around this ring, in the rain, in the mud. It still had a huge crowd there. The crowd honestly was incredible. They were in the rain with us. It was like being at like a Pearl Jam concert or some shit. And we brawl up the tabletop jump directly behind the ring. So there's people in the grandstands that are still dry watching this. There's people that are on the track watching this. They're just all losing their minds. And we're brawling at the top of it. And so then it becomes a thing of, somebody has to kind of go off of this thing.
Yeah.
And so like I bop Rhino or something, I grab him and I go, "Hey man, do you want to go off of this?" And this pouring rain and all this other shit. And he just goes, "No. Do you want to go off of it?" And I'm like, I'm still new and all this other shit. I'm trying to, be cool and stuff. And I go, sure, I guess. I was expecting the good old fashioned Royal Rumble, hand to the back of the head and whatnot.
Yeah.
And throw me off of this massive tabletop jump. It was enormous. No, he just grabs a hold of me and says, "Fall flat, you'll be okay." And he just military presses me over his head. And he walks. I wish I had the pictures of it, because it would be the hardest album cover of all time. He walks to the edge of this ramp, holding me up over his head like a barbell. Lightning strikes. He's screaming, and he just hucks me off of this thing. And I just, oh man, shit, and then log roll down it like hot rod, just all the way down in the mud and the rain. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I didn't know anything was gonna happen. Oh my God, fuck. So then I'm laying at the bottom of the thing, and the ref comes up to me and goes, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah, man, I'm fine." And he just goes, "You better get up. He's coming down the hill." But yeah, so then that became the hey, remember that time that Rhino press slammed you off a mountain in the middle of a thunderstorm while lightning struck behind him?
I think that might top the list.
Yeah,
that one right there might top the list. I've heard some doozies from a match with New Jack where they got told to be careful with the arena, and then they both end up going through a wall, and Paul Heyman screaming at them after the match, to a guy getting stabbed in the ass by this old lady, to it was actually one of my most recent episodes I released where the guy wore a shirt to the ring that said, both in English and in Spanish, "Justice for Brody," in Puerto Rico.
Oh no, that's not great. That's not a good idea.
The promoters literally called him, telling him that he's had people tell him that if he brings that guy back, that he's not making it home. Yeah. Yeah, that was my face when he told me that. Nope. All right. Now, next question I have. I think most of the time that I've seen you, it's been on the heel side of things.
Okay.
But everybody has, like, heel or face, which one they prefer. Which one do you prefer? I'm wanting to guess I probably know the answer.
I typically prefer to be a heel. I used to really just not be comfortable at all being a baby face. I've gotten better at it in the past couple of years. I've gotten more comfortable with it in the past few years, and I don't dislike it. There was a time where I really genuinely disliked being the good guy. I am more comfortable with it now, and I do enjoy it now because it's nice to I can do more wrestling. I feel like when I'm a babyface, when I'm a villain, I have things that I prefer to do and like the way I like to build my matches and such. And it's not a lot of wrestling in it, honestly, like grapple fucky wrestling.
Yeah.
But typically, I do prefer to be a heel. I think it's easier for me to control my matches that way. I think that it's much easier for me to be disliked than it is to be liked. I think that's just human nature, honestly. And I like to control the tempo and the pacing and things like that. But the gap between the two is not nearly as big as it used to be.
I guess it seems like lately there's a lot of those people that are kind of tweeners, they play both sides of it.
I think that it's also a thing too where it's like if you're new somewhere, right? If you're going to a new town and new audience, and they don't know who you are, making total strangers like you when you have, the classics, the 8 to 10 minutes, right? Well, maybe that's bell to bell, so let's say 11. Making people that don't know you like you and invest in you so much that they're clapping and chanting and cheering for you in that short amount of time when you're new is very difficult.
Yeah.
And when I say new, I don't just mean like in general, I mean like new to the place.
Yeah, new to that place, yeah.
Because you could be wrestling for 10 or 12 years. Well, these guys out here in Omaha don't know who the fuck you are. You ain't been here yet. But yeah, but pissing people off and making them angry is decidedly easy.
Those situations, yeah,
gravitate towards being a heel is their preferred one because it is easier. I think that being a heel is easier. Being a good heel is very hard.
Yeah, and knowing when to turn it off
and how to do it correctly.
Yeah,
because anybody can walk through a curtain and say this town sucks. Screw you, Four Eyes. Screw you, Fat Boy. Blah blah blah. But if you go past that, then a lot of those guys honestly really struggle and they don't know what they're doing,
Well, I get you there. All right. Now, next up, whether on the independents or national TV, there's a lot of traveling back and forth, airports, on the roads, a lot of ways that, hell, I know that I pass the time playlists. What are like a couple songs that you would have on a road trip playlist?
So I typically feel very sad when I am on my way home from a show. So I do have songs that I will listen to. It honestly, it also depends if I'm in a car by myself or if I'm in a car with other people. If I'm in a car by myself, I'm fine with being sad and depressed. I don't like to do that to other people though. I don't like to bring people down. I like to bring people up. So I'm going to answer this as, let's say I'm coming home from a show. I'm feeling reflective and appreciative, but also that's kind of a downer, whatever. The song I took a pill in Ibiza by Mike Posner, I think is his name. If you listen to the original acoustic version of that song, it is very applicable to independent pro wrestling. And it really, really gets to me. The song Put Your Lights On by Santana, and I think it's Santana and Everlast. I listen to after every Dreamwave show. I have like my own routine for Dreamwave shows because there's like an emotional overload and then it's all gone.
Mm.
So I usually travel by myself to Dreamwave. It's only a few minutes from where I live. But when I leave, I usually have a can of RC. I'll take one RC with me to the venue. When I when Dreamwave is over, I say my goodbyes and everything, blah, blah. I load everything up into my truck, get in, and I crack open an RC and I listen to Put Your Lights On. Maybe twice by the time I get home, and have my RC and just reset my brain, reset emotions. And a lot of it would be Metallica. I think that Bleeding Me is a great. These are all after the show, by the way.
Yeah.
Bleeding Me is a good post wrestling show song. Mama Said is another. God, these are all downers. But yeah, that's kind of what I enjoy listening to. There's a Gail Swanson cover of Sympathy for the Devil that I truly, truly, truly love. And I've listened to that after so many wrestling shows. I think that for me, it's a thing where it's like it's very hard to describe it. It's so niche because I enjoy traveling to shows with people, typically. But there are times where it's like it's nice to just be by myself. I'm a bit of a loner by nature, just in general. And when the show's over and I'm like, okay, the work is done for just a little bit. I can relax for just a little bit. I don't have to be on for a little bit. I don't have to be creative for a little bit. And you feel that rush and all that leave you. I kind of just want to be sad. And I just want to listen to sad music. And that's a lot of what it is for me. And then as soon as I'm out of that mode, I'm like, all right, I'm going to turn on a podcast or something that makes me laugh. But yeah, that's kind of it for me. Going to shows, I don't really have like a playlist of stuff that I listen to a lot. Going to shows to like get me in the mindset. Yeah, I that's not usually my process. God, that sounds pretentious. But yeah, I usually just kind of listen to whatever on my way to shows, especially if I'm with people. I'm like trying to have conversation more than anything. On the way there, I'll listen to 90s country. I'll listen to podcasts. I'll listen to some, grunge or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like my sad songs on the way home.
Oh yeah, I know. Going to different shows or hell, going pretty much anywhere. Like I'll listen to a little bit of everything. Like hell, I have to drive about an hour to where I work, and I have to leave by like 6:20 in the morning, and something like upbeat stuff to kind of keep me awake because I am not a morning person. But I have a range in there from everybody from like Tech Nine to Metallica to oh god, Dirks Bentley, which I actually got. I've actually shotgunned a beer on stage with Dirks Bentley.
That's cool.
Like I still got the fucking can. And behind where I'm recording, there was a point after that, like towards the end of the show, where he literally signed a guitar that one of his band was playing and then walks over and hands it to me. I got it hanging up on my wall.
That's awesome.
And Luke Combs, he's another one that I'm really big on because my wife and I have seen him about 10 times. But actually, when I made my entrance for my commentary debut, his song "Beer Never Broke My Heart" was my, and I even did, there's this one point in the song where I literally did the Stone Cold with the beers, and I'm like, I told my friend that ran the show, I'm like, you do not tell a Stone Cold fan that he's getting an entrance at a wrestling show and expect him not to do that.
No, that's obligatory. That has to be done.
Oh yeah, has to be done. All right, I got a couple questions left.
Sure.
The first of the two, I think with the name of a show like I kind of have to ask this one. Favorite drink, whether alcoholic or otherwise?
My favorite drink.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with a non-alcoholic and an alcoholic one. Then my favorite
that's perfect.
non-alcoholic drink is coffee.
Okay.
I have coffee every morning. I know it's a played out joke that is on a lot of ugly mugs, probably in your aunt's cupboard right now. If you're listening to this, I can't function without my coffee in the morning. I need my coffee in the morning. I like my French vanilla. I like a little bit of cream. I don't like sugar. If I'm going to Dunkin', I like my extra shot of espresso. Um, Past that, I like a good glass of milk. Favorite alcoholic drink? It's Miller Lite. And if it's not Miller Lite, past that, it's a Bloody Mary. A good Bloody Mary in the right situation is just
No, yeah.
one of life's greatest pleasures, man.
Oh yeah, you get a one that's made right. Oh, they can be good.
And when it's the weather's nice and you're outside and you're hungover, but you're just doing this because it doesn't actually cure your hangover. It just makes you feel a little bit less drunk. So then you can kind of like hit Sunday running. Like a good Bloody Mary is like hitting a reset button.
Mm.
That's a you wake up Sunday morning. I even like chiladas.
No, those are good.
Yeah.
There's some really good ones out there. I
Um,
know. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was just also going to say I do love a good Moscow Mule.
Oh, those
Just,
can be
but
good
I
too.
don't like to go fancy. I don't like to go fancy. I just like a good plain Moscow Mule. I want my Tito's. I want my ginger beer. I want my little bit of shit. What is it? Not asparagus.
The ginger beer and the freaking
Beer, vodka, ice, and whatever. But like,
yeah.
just a good Moscow Mule. Moscow Mule goes great with sushi.
Duh, yeah.
A good plain Moscow Mule. I don't dislike the flavors, but for me, I'm like, nope. That's all.
The regular. Gotcha. I know my personal favorite beer, Kona Big Wave. I love the shit out of that beer.
Boom! Got to get the sponsorship going on. There it is.
Oh, good. I've been trying to get a hold of the people at Kona Brewing. I want the freaking sponsorship, damn it. But otherwise, Dr. Pepper. I'm a Dr. Pepper fan.
Okay.
That's pretty much how I get my caffeine in the morning, unless I'm with my wife and we're driving through someplace and I'm like, what's that thing I got the last time? And like, yeah, get that again.
I'm also big on like there's some stuff that's just right in the right situations. Like
True.
I love going to movies. I'm a big movie guy. And when I go to the theater, I want my popcorn. I want it with a shit ton of salt, a shit ton of butter, and I want a cherry Coke.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't care what movie I'm watching. I just want to sit in this theater with my cherry Coke and a gigantic thing of greasy, salty popcorn.
You know what? That actually brings up one more question besides my last one that I had here because I haven't been to the movies a lot lately, but the past couple of months I've actually seen two ones that I was pretty excited to see actually. The first one, my wife and I actually went to see Deadpool and Wolverine in 4DX, where like the seats are moving around and shit. The air cannons were like blowing my beer around. And just recently saw the second Beetlejuice.
Haven't seen that one yet.
It was pretty good. What is a favorite movie that you've seen recently?
Favorite movie I've seen recently. This is going to sound insane, but because again, I'm a big movie guy, and I need to get on Letterboxd. I'm logging all the new movies that I see this year, whether they are new releases or just things that I have not seen. Dune 2. I loved Dune 2. I think that was early this year. It had to have been, I think.
I wanted to say so.
It just feels like it was ages ago. I already know whatever, but I really enjoyed the last one with Chalamet. I thought it was really cool. And then this one, I was like, oh man, this is everything. I just fucking loved it. Dune 2 was a good one. Deadpool Wolverine was very fun. Had a great time watching that movie.
they're gonna make you do this till you're 90.
Um, but you can't die. It's God's greatest joke. Um, but yeah, like I have weird taste in movies because I'm like I sometimes I like stuff that's just bleak because it makes me feel something. I'm just so emotionally dead. But no, Dune 2, I just fucking I understand if someone doesn't like it. I get it if it's not your cup of tea for sure. But for me, I was like, man, this is just fucking dope.
No,
And I like monster movies. I like shit that's just cheap, dumb fun. You know, like I'm not going to sit here and say that Godzilla and Kong from a few months ago is a you know that's
yeah.
not a masterpiece. This is not art. You know, it's not like a great film. But I had a great time watching it, and I own it. I've watched it a bunch of times since because I'm like, man, sometimes I'm tired and I just want to watch a big lizard and a big monkey fucking fist fight each other.
Oh
Sometimes
yeah.
sometimes I want epic lore and a grand story, and sometimes I want something emotionally draining, and sometimes I'm like, nah, dude, I kind of just want to watch Arnold shoot an alien.
Oh yeah. I I just recently, not in the theater, I watched that Twisters,
Yeah,
the the sequel, and I've seen some people say they didn't really like it too much. I didn't mind it because it just made me think of when I was in Navy boot camp, and which is like just north of Chicago,
mm-hmm.
and there was a tornado watch one time, and there were people in my division that were like freaking out, like, "Oh my god, tornado!" I'm like, you would need to be worried if it were a warning.
Right,
I had to explain that because I'm like, this is a tornado watch. Nothing's happened yet.
right.
But I've been through so many of them that literally, unless it is literally just across town from me, I don't
Mm-hmm.
even bother. If it just says the county I'm in, it could be I don't know how far away.
I mean that's life in the Midwest, though, dude. You know,
Yeah.
it's like for tornadoes, you don't really even start to, I guess, raise your eyebrows at a tornado in the Midwest unless it's within like I'm gonna say 8 miles of where you're at, and then you're like, whoa, man, kind of close there, dude. Like to your point, like, and I might be generous when I say 8 miles. But I'm saying that in the sense that like you probably know somebody that got hit by it at
Oh
that
yeah.
point. But you're in the Midwest, and people are like, "Oh my God, there was a tornado 50 miles from here." I'm like, "How do you even know that was 50 miles away?"
Yeah,
That might
that's
as well
where
be the
I'm at
dark
with it.
side. 50 miles away in the Midwest might as well be the dark side of the moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm totally with you there. All right. Now, last thing. Best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling?
Oh man. Um. So in an effort to not go on another diatribe, because I feel like I've done several of those on this episode.
It's
Um. Best advice for someone who's going to get into wrestling. I can sit here and say like, oh, well, you should start working out, which is very true. You should be on a healthy diet, which is very true. I can say you should learn how to budget your money, which is very true. I should say you should learn how to drive and how to change a tire. This is also very true. Um, I could sit here and say you should study the history of professional wrestling, and you should learn the actual technique and art of just having a match before you even do anything else. And that's very true, and I really stand by that one. But on top of all of those things, uh, me and my friends and students and whatnot, I have these quotes that I say often. They call them Tomisms, and one of the best ones that I've come up with, and it might be the answer to this question. On top of everything else I just said, which is truly what I think is good advice, um, it's really easy to be cool. And yet somehow, some way, every day, someone fucks it up. Don't be that person that fucks it up. Just be cool. Because there's tons of great wrestlers out there that are very good in ring and maybe they look like $1,000,000 and everything, but they're insufferable to be around, and they're difficult with, and they never end up doing anything or being anything, and that's why. And I also think it's a matter of if you're just, again, it's so easy to be cool, right? Let's say you're a hot new prospect and you're athletic and you look like $1,000,000 and all this other stuff, and people know, oh, you're not going to be on the Indies very long, and you're an asshole to everybody on the independents, and then you get signed somewhere, and then you get released. Now you're back on the independents with all those people that you were really shitty to.
Yeah, but you're not going to get a warm welcome.
Right. You see the same people on your way up that you see on your way down, right? So that doesn't have to be a bad thing. If you're cool and you see those people on your way up, then when you're on your way back down, they're like, oh, hey, I remember you. You were really cool to me. I appreciate that. Let's go have a good match. You want to hang out afterwards? Maybe I'll get you a drink. Want some, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that might, if I had to like boil it down to one thing, that's probably honestly what it
probably. Okay. No, very good advice. Before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you, they can go ahead and get them there.
So I am somewhat of a shut-in as far as social media goes. I do have a Twitter. It's at WAWED podcast, which is my own podcast show. That's right. Using your show to plug mine. Take that.
Hey, do it.
But yeah, I do have a podcast as well. It's called What Are We Even Doing? It's me and my dear friends. We watch and review wrestling shows. We do watch-alongs. We have a Patreon, blah, blah. You can find all that stuff. But yeah, it's called What Are We Even Doing? On all your podcast platforms. Outside of that, if you're listening to this, please do not add me on Facebook. I'm at maximum. I don't need anymore. You can add me on Snapchat because I'm so far behind the times at Bitter Lunatic. You can also follow me on Instagram. I finally got on Instagram like this year because I'm so far behind the times. But you can follow me on Instagram at Wrestling Coyote. You can see me in the future coming up at St. Louis Anarchy, at Dreamwave Wrestling, obviously, at Rocket Pro, Zowa Live, Rocket Pro out of Joliet, Illinois, Zowa Live out of Northern Illinois. Small spoiler, brother, Magnum in the future. And yeah, I'm doing a little bit of stuff with EWA and Rugged out in Iowa.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I'm everywhere, dude. I'll be in Terre Haute, Indiana, in a few weeks for Hybrid Championship Wrestling, and yeah, I think that's it.
All righty, we'll get all that in the description. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me tonight. I think my thing here is about to run out of battery, so I better go get the damn charger. But thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and you're welcome back anytime.
Happy to be here. Would love to be back.